This is Gus Summers, and you're watching In Show Celebrities. This is the time I take every Monday to talk about some of my favorite films and actors. This week, we have another grand legend of Hollywood. He's considered one of Hollywood's best. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Al Pacino. Truly, he is one of Hollywood's living legends. Well, this great actor started off early in his young life wanting to be an actor. He set off for New York doing all sorts of odd jobs. He lived with friends, lived in the theaters where he found work just to raise money to go to school. And he was fortunate enough to learn from one of acting's best coaches. Right off, you could see that he was a great talent. And he started off with plays and then bit parts, and then he got leads in films, and then right away he got a role that would change his life forever. And not only that, he would be nominated for Best Supporting Actor in that role. Of course, I'm talking about Michael Corleone in The Godfather. And then from there, he just took off. From that time through the 70s, he would make such films as Serpico, Godfather Part 2, Bobby Deerfield, and Justice for All. In the 70s alone, he would be nominated 4 times for an Academy Award. Incredible. Well, of course, we know him as a brilliant actor who was able to take on all sorts of different roles and put on all sorts of different performances. Well, first up is a role that he made so iconic that people to this day still quote the lines, still rank the film as one of the best films from Hollywood, and of course rank it as one of his best films. I'm talking about Scarface. Of course, he plays Tony Montana, a Cuban immigrant that comes from Cuba during the Cuban crisis in the 80s. What I loved about it was when someone would say, "Oh, you're just an immigrant and you're just whatever," he would say, "Hey, I'm a political refugee." I love how he did that. He took on such a great persona. Changed his demeanor. It changed his speech patterns. Just changed his acting all about it. Just a milestone for him in his acting ability. Well, him and his good friend Manny, portrayed by Stephen Bauer, were friends since Cuba, come to Florida. They commit a crime to get out of the detention center, and now they're basically let loose in Miami because they're able to get their freedom. Well, Stephen Bauer makes friends with a local mover and shaker. His name's Omar, another brilliant actor, Mr. F. Murray Abraham. Well, so Manny, Stephen Bauer, becomes friends with Omar, and he's telling Al Pacino, "Hey, he'll get us some good work. We'll have to move some product or what have you, and we'll make some money." Well, Tony Montana meets Omar, and what I loved about the character was he's a guy that's been around. He's a guy says, "Don't yank my chain. I know what things are going for. We don't want to do this type of peddly job. We want something big and something to make some real money." Well, he argues with Omar back and forth. Omar says, all right, Tony Montana, you want something big? I'll give you something big. We're going to move a couple keys. You're going to go get them from these, I think they were Colombians. We're going to get them from there. We're going to give you money. We'll see how you do. So Tony Montana gets a couple other friends. So there's 4 of them. He tells Stephen Bauer, "Wait in the car. I'm going to leave the money here. If anything happens, come get me in 15 minutes if I'm not down." So he goes up. For those who haven't seen it, they get double crossed. His one friend gets murdered. I'll save that for those who haven't seen it. And right when Tony Montana is about to get killed, in comes Manny, with the machine gun, boom, starts shooting everybody. Tony Montana goes chasing the bad guy, boom, blows him away. They get the money, they get the cocaine, and then take it back to Omar, but they take it to his boss. He introduces him to the main player, Frank Lopez. This film is just filled with great actors. Frank, portrayed by the great Robert Loggia. He's a jolly guy. He owns his own car dealership. He moves quite a bit of product. He's a player. And Al Pacino says, here's the product and the money. It's a gift to you. I give it all back. And Frank says, I like this guy. Look he brings it all back. This is wonderful. You're going to go somewhere. We're going to do, you're going to do great things. Well, during that meeting at Frank's house, you see, everyone talking, and he looks up because he sees a beautiful woman starting to descend an elevator in Frank's home. And from that moment, he was in love with Frank's girlfriend, Elvira. None other than the beautiful Michelle Pfeiffer. When she comes down, she tells Frank, let's go party, let's go to the nightclub. So they all go to the nightclub, and she asks Frank to dance. He doesn't want to. She says, Tony, why don't you go dance? So Al Pacino, they're dancing, and he's talking to her, and you knew from that moment on that he was just going to pursue her until he finally could have her as his own. Well, these are the cast, the characters. So now you see Tony Montana trying, making business deals on the side. He helps Frank build his business. Then comes this huge deal. Al Pacino and F. Murray Abraham go down there to negotiate. Tony Montana negotiates this huge deal and goes back and tells Frank and says, okay, we got this huge deal. And Frank says, what are you doing? That's way too much. You have to keep it measured. You have to keep it, easy. And from then, Frank and Tony are at odds. So now, he ends up breaking away. Frank tries to maneuver certain things to happen to get Tony out of the business. He sends a policeman to tell Tony, well, you know what? It's time to pay up. You're moving some big product. Time to pay up. Another great actor. His name is Mel Bernstein or something like that, if I remember. Another delightful actor, Harris Yulin. So he's the cop that's trying to shake down Tony Montana. And amidst of all this, one of the things that I love about the film is that it gives little insight into the character. You see that there are certain things that set him off, and when those moments come, they're quiet. They focus on Al Pacino's eyes, and you hear the music, and you don't know what he's thinking, but he's thinking, and then just boom, he just reacts. What I loved about it is that during those moments when it's panning in his eyes, you just see him looking. He's thinking, and then he's done thinking, boom, reacts. He's not just a beast the way he's portrayed, the way a lot of people see him. He just attacks. He's a thinker. He thinks, and when the moment comes, boom, he reacts. Well, the only good thing in his life in this entire movie is his friend Manny, Stephen Bauer, and he ends up finding his family and his little sister. And his little sister he adores because he hasn't seen her, since she was a little girl. Now she's basically a grown woman. Gina, another wonderful actress. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. I think she does great in this film. If you've seen her throughout the years, you'll know she's a delightful actress, but does wonderful. So, well, I don't want to, keep giving more away about the film, but as we know, he becomes a major player in the drug field. He has to perform all sorts of violent acts, and leading up to the climax that everyone just thinks is fantastic. Well, anyways, Scarface, great movie. Next movie, he actually won the Academy Award for Best Actor for this movie. I could have picked so many different movies. Again, these are just movies that I enjoy and I go back to. It was really, again, flip of coins to decide which movies. But this movie, Scent of a Woman. He plays Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade. He is a retired lieutenant colonel who had an accident and who's now blind. And we meet him a little later on in the film. Who you first meet is Charlie Sims, another wonderful actor, Chris O'Donnell. He's a young man going to college on scholarship from Oregon, working his way through, trying to get himself into, better colleges and stuff. And he has friends who are wealthy because, an Ivy League type school, and he gets into, by no fault of his own, gets into trouble. So we see what happens with him. One of his friends, of course, goes on to be another great actor. He's a George Willis Jr. It's the great and unfortunately late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Them two are not involved in a prank that a group of their friends played on the dean of the school. The dean, again, another great actor. Dean Trask, played by James Rabhorn, a delightful actor taken too soon. But they end up pulling a prank. He was given a new car by the school. He pops this balloon that drops all kinds of like gelatin or yogurt all over his car. So he wants to know who did it. He finds out that them two were at a certain vantage point to see who it was. Well, neither one of them wanted to snitch. The dean tells Chris O'Donnell, look, I'm going to give you the weekend to think about it because I know you know who did it, so I want you to tell me because otherwise your future is in jeopardy. What ends up happening is it's Thanksgiving weekend. He needs to earn some extra money. He answered an ad on the school bulletin board about basically, having an adult sitter be around while the family leaves, and the person he's supposed to stay with is Al Pacino. So he goes, meets Al Pacino. He first meets him. He's living in a back room with his niece, and he's just yelling, "Who's there?" And he goes, "Excuse me, sir." He goes, "Don't call me sir. You can call me Lieutenant Colonel Slade, or if you have to, you can call me Colonel." He's saying all these things. He's yelling, and Chris O'Donnell's like, "Okay, chill out." Again, great. You have two different personalities, worlds clashing together, and so he reluctantly agrees to stay with Al Pacino because the family wanted to get away for the weekend for Thanksgiving. So Charlie thinks he's just going to stay, there at the house. Well, Al Pacino drops a bomb on him and says, "Come on, we're going to New York." And he goes, "What are we going to do?" He goes, "We're going to have the best time of our lives. We're going to, eat, drink, live, and at the end of it, I'm going to shoot myself in the head." So we're going to go do that. And Charlie Sims, Christopher O'Donnell's like, "Well, we can't go." He goes, "Come on, we're leaving." So he convinces them to go. And they get to the hotel, and has a suit made for Christopher O'Donnell. And meanwhile, Christopher O'Donnell is concerned about what's going to happen at school. Philip Seymour Hoffman told him, "Hey, we're going to go vacation. Why don't you go with us?" Charlie says, "I can't afford it." And he says, "Well, call me over the weekend. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it." So he calls Philip Seymour Hoffman. Philip Seymour Hoffman says, "Don't worry about it. We're good. We're not going to tell our parents. We're going to stay together. We're going to stick together through this whole thing. We'll get through it. Don't worry about it." And so meanwhile, Al Pacino is, pretty much living life. They're going to restaurants. They're, living it up in New York. He's visiting family. He's doing all these things. And Crystal O'Donnell says, well, all right, I'll stay with you, but I got to leave because I got to get back to school. Where are you going to? Al Pacino keeps telling him, where are you going to? Oh, you're having a little trouble, I can tell. Again, one of the things that I loved about the movie was, here is a character, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, who later on tells you, this thing, and towards the end he goes, who do you think you're talking to? I've been around. Something I loved about it was age. Here is a character who has lived life, who has experience, who can see things that a young man who hasn't had that life experience can't see yet. He thinks he's sharp, he thinks he's on it, and there's some things that he does know, but here's a man of wealth, of knowledge, of experience, saying, I know what's going on. You're having a problem at school. Your friend over there is telling you to keep calm about it, but what do you think is going to happen? He goes, look at rich boy, poor boy. They're going to go after the poor boy because rich boy's daddy's not going to let anything happen to him. And he's all, no, he's not going to tell his dad. We're not going to tell our parents. He goes, just watch. Again, great performances. I love that. Again, that Al Pacino is able to build another character with depth, someone that you want to listen to. When he has these monologues, these moments where he just speaks, you want to hear it because they are coming from truth. He's a method actor, so he's diving somewhere to deliver this truth. And the film is great. He's doing all these things that he's never done before, because he was in the military for like 20, 30 years. So he was a military man. Now, he has money. He's able to live at stay at a wonderful hotel, have a beautiful suit, have wonderful dinners, have drinks. He even, as a lot of you know, he ends up dancing with a beautiful lady because he would smell. He goes, scent of a woman. There's nothing more beautiful than a woman. And it's beautiful. I love that, and it's how true that is. But fantastic film, of course, a film you can watch over and over, and he won an Academy Award for that very role. Fantastic. Last film. Of course, he's known for these wonderful movies that really dive into the character, and his performances pull you in, because if you think of course, the Godfather 2, specifically when he's taking over the Corleone family, everything he has to do in the film in regards to how he deals with people, how he deals with the organization. Same thing in another film he got nominated for was And Justice for All. Again, how he has to deal with the justice system, how he deals with his clients, how he deals with the judges, his friends, his dilemmas with the legal system. Again, fantastic. In the same way, this next film does the same thing. Of course, I'm talking about Carlito's Way. He plays Carlito Brigante, a guy who just got out of prison and just wants to set his life straight. And, I love how he brings to life these characters that make you root for them. And, you're rooting for, in Scarface, you're rooting for a bad guy. Same thing with Godfather. It's, you're back and forth. He's a good guy, he's a bad guy. He's a mobster, he's doing what he has to. It's like, come on, Michael, you can do it. Same thing here with Carlito's Way. You find out that he was in prison. He gets out on a technicality, and he says, I'm going straight. And he proclaims it to the world as loud as he can. No one believes him. But what I love about the film is that it was true. He wanted no part of his former life. He was going legit. And of course, as the movie progresses, he himself is getting pulled back into the lifestyle that he was trying to get away from. Of course, that leads perfectly from the other Godfather 3. He says, every time I want to get out, they pull me back in. Great line. That's exactly what happened here with Carlito's wife. He's meeting his friends. Everyone says, "Hey, Carlito, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna?" No, no, no. I'm not gonna do anything. Even his best friend doesn't believe him. His best friend is this lawyer. Another great actor. The character's name is David Kleinfeld. He's the one who helped Al Pacino get out of prison. Another great actor, Sean Penn. So even Sean Penn doesn't believe him. He goes, "Come on, what are you going to do for money?" He goes, "You got to do something." "I'll figure something out." So he goes. You have the opening scenes where he's telling everyone, I'm out. He's driving with his, I believe it's his cousin, young cousin. And he's, "All right, Carlito, hey, will you go with me? I just got to do. I'm doing some small business with one of the local guys. I just need to do a drop off." Al Pacino says no, reluctantly says yes. They go to drop off some cash, and then of course all hell breaks loose. And there's a scene where Al Pacino starts noticing something's going on, something's happening. So he's trying to set himself up so he can get him and his cousin out. And then again, they get the tables turned on them. His cousin gets killed. He's able to, subdue two of the guys, kill two of the guys. There's four of them, and he ends up hiding in the bathroom. And he's checking his gun, and it's empty. And he's and he knows there's two other guys out there, and he just cocks the gun. He goes, all right, I'm reloaded. I'm coming out." I love how he's yelling, come on. You think you're big time? You're gonna die big time. Here you go. Here comes the pain. And he goes out ready to, pretend to shoot because he has no bullets. The guy's left, so he's by himself with the dead bodies. And he's just like, oh man, I can't believe it. And another aspect of the film is that he narrates it. He tells you what he's thinking. So, I love that. So what he ends up doing is taking the money off the counter and runs away. Dumps the gun away. So now he's got some cash. David Kleinfeld, Sean Penn tells him, "Hey, I'm part of a club. I'd like you to manage it." And he goes, "No, I'm not going to manage it. What I'll do is I'll buy into it, and then we'll split the profits, so on and so forth," because he wants to go away to the Bahamas and just get away from this life. There's a friend of his down there running a little car rental business. And he's like, "Where'd you get money from?" He goes, a guy owed me money. I love that. Someone owed me money. Somebody would. So he ends up buying into the club, and he's reaping money. He meets, of course, Sean Penn says, "Hey, I need a bodyguard. Do you have anybody?" He goes, yeah, I got somebody. His name's Pacino. Good guy. Another great actor. You see him everywhere in all sorts of movies. Luis Guzman. He plays Pacino. His bodyguard. His buddy from the old days. So he's there. He tells Sean Penn, he's a good guy. You can trust him. He can be a good bodyguard. So you have this cast of characters. So now then, you have the district attorney who has it in for Carlito because his whole case got thrown out because he used illegal wiretaps. He got falsified evidence. Forgot all that he did, but now he's really after Carlito. Again, another great actor. Matter of fact, he played the dean in Scent of a Woman. James Rebhorn. Again, take it too soon, but he plays D.A. Norwalk, who's just after Carlito. So you see him pop in and out, trying to catch Carlito doing illegal activities, but because he's gone straight, he has nothing. So he's dealing with Sean Penn, who has his own problems because he stole $1 million from the mob. So now, he's dealing with that, and he's not yet telling Carlito about it. But that's why he asked for a bodyguard. Al Pacino is dealing with the club. he's dealing with old friends. Then he meets this new up and coming, gangster. He's moving a little bit of product, so he thinks he's really, hip and cool, and he's a conniver. He's such a conniver. Oh yeah, this is Carlito. This is such a great guy. He's a legend. Da, 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 da. And Carlito's just like, all right, back off. Again, another great actor. He plays Benny Blanco from the Bronx, if I remember. John Leguizamo. Again, he does great in this role. Hey, he's just such a conniver. This is Carlito. He's great. Who ends up getting on the wrong side of Carlito, and then they end up, having conflict. And meanwhile, Carlito's really wanting to raise. He needs to raise $75,000 so he can go join his friend in the Bahamas. So he's being pulled left and right. They're trying to pull him back into business. He's criminal activity. He's resisting, but he has a love interest, and he's wondering, he wants to go see her. He actually goes sees her. He kind of follows her, and she's a dancer. And later he finds out where she works and what she's doing, and then he goes to talk to her. It's the character's name is Gail. Basically, the love of his life. When he went to jail, everything fell apart. She's portrayed wonderfully by Penelope Ann Miller. I think she does a great job in this. Is playing his love interest. She's a dancer who works as a just to earn a living. Things weren't working out for her, so now she's a stripper, and that's where he finds her. So now you have, Carlito now has a love. His love interest is back in his life, and he's really trying to just keep everything in check, but everyone is just after him. Again, what I loved about this movie is that it gives you a glimpse, even when he was a bad guy. I'm a good guy now. I don't want to be involved in this. And then everything, all life, just wants to pull him down. And here he is again. We're rooting for him. Come on, Carlito. Come on, you can do it. You can beat the system. You can buck it. You're not what they say you are. And the whole movie, what I loved about it is that he was not. He was really trying to do the right thing. But fantastic movie. Again, all these. I mean, again, Scarface. It had such a cultural impact where you still see movie frames, movie references. People still say, you dirty cockroach. You still say Manny. You say all these great things. Scent of a woman. People still go hoorah. all those great lines in Carlito's way. Again, a big effect. But just scratching the surface. And what's delightful is that he is still working. He is one of those actors that's prolific, who is such a grand talent, and we still enjoy his work, and of course that he's a true Hollywood living legend, Mr. Al Pacino. Well, that's what I got for you today. This has been Gus Summers, and you've been watching In-Show Celebrities. This is the time I take every Monday to talk about some of my favorite films and actors. And remember, don't forget to visit us every Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. at theinshow.com, where I host The In-Show. And that's when I bring in all sorts of celebrities and guests just to talk about their projects or whatever it is that's on their minds. Of course, remember to visit us at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Flickr, Instagram, all those great social media sites. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, Gus has left the building.